A lot of people are complaining about jobs and employers and how employees are getting the short end of the stick, but apparently there are a lot of people that are trying to take advantage of employers. It's kind of hard to get some sympathy these days, but let's give it a shot. Employers, what's the most insane complaint you've had about an employee that turned out to be completely true? Story 1. So I worked retail, and we got this guy named something like Gus. My boss tells me, hey, this guy's got anxiety. Go easy on him, okay? And so I was like, okay, that's cool. I get it. I can relate. I do everything I can to help him make sense of the infernal, godforsaken hellscape that is retail. It starts off with little forgivable things. Forgetting a task here, forgetting things there, accidentally giving the wrong info, and things like that. You know, newbie retail stuff like that. He quickly devolved in popularity as his complacency grew over time and his helpful attitude shrank. My guy started messing around during his shift, getting caught on his phone while ignoring backup cashier calls and things like that. He would make stabbing motions behind the manager's back to other employees, tell off new employees, and play it all off like he was some innocent dope who didn't know any better. None of this got him fired. Day after day was a new complaint from an employee about responsibilities he shirked or a customer about blatantly wrong info, like, oh yeah, we have another location up on the hill, and we didn't. No idea whose son he was, because that was apparently all kosher. What actually got him fired is the one day he brought a dog and a super expensive dog collar into work. He claimed he almost hit the dog on the way to work and it was running around wild, etc., etc. He tried to sell the dog collar to a customer, then tried to adopt out the dog to a coworker. This coworker was competent enough to take the dog to a vet, whereupon they found a microchip and contacted the actual owners. That's where the fun started. It came out that Gus never found the dog at all. He straight up kidnapped this dog from his neighbor and tried to pawn it off, knowing full well what he was doing. The guy lawyered up immediately, tried to sue Gus, and threatened to sue the store and the store manager if Gus wasn't fired. Suffice to say, Gus was gone that very same evening. Nothing else came of it, but we talked about him for years and years. This is probably one of the better workplace stories I've heard in a while. How in the world did this guy last as long as he did? Did he have some kind of beef, real or imagined, with his neighbor? I tend to think if he was willing to kidnap his neighbor's dog and try to get rid of him to somebody else, he probably did some other shady things to try and stay in his job. He must have really been impressive in the interview to land this job. Story 2. Too long didn't read? Admin assistant committed fraud, resulting in her boss and eventually her being fired because her dog had a nervous condition. My boss lost an internal power struggle and was soon fired. The official reason given was he was submitting fraudulent expense reports. I'm not promoted, but given all of his responsibilities, and I inherited his administrative assistant. Suddenly, charges for car service, local hotels, and local liquor stores appear on my corporate credit card. I ask the admin about the charges, and she gives me an explanation that's plausible, but that I know isn't accurate. I called the credit card company and contest the charges until they provide more info. I also started doing some of my own research on the charges. Turns out the admin assistant was an alcoholic who lived with her dog in the local hotel I was getting charged for. She was having the car service pick up her booze at the local liquor store and deliver it to her at the hotel. Why? Her dog had a nervous condition, and he liked that hotel. He would get upset if she went out to the store after she got back from work, so she used the car service so she wouldn't leave and upset the dog. She charged the expenses to my bosses and my corporate cards because we owed her for making her come to work and leave her dog alone. I got her fired and successfully fought the credit card charges. Even though I found the person actually committing the fraud, my boss was still considered fired for cause because he signed the expense reports with the fraudulent charges. To be fair, it does sound like he was lousy at his job. And we have another one where a dog is involved. But also, dig the massive privilege exhibited by this admin assistant. There's taking care of your dog, and there's forming an unhealthy relationship with your dog. She actually justifies her alcoholism by basically stating the dog made me do it. That's some Son of Sam logic right there. Story 3. We had this guy as a delivery driver. Super nice, quiet, never showed any signs of anger, even in stressful situations. We started getting calls mainly from older women that our delivery driver, we had our logo on both front doors, was cutting off, flipping off, yelling runt at these women. I didn't believe it at first. I thought maybe they cut him off, he honked, they wanted him fired, so made up some big story. Then the back window got busted out of the vehicle, and then the radio looked like it got punched out for whatever reason. Everything came together, and we found out he had huge anger issues. He stopped showing up, so it solved itself, but it was crazy how good of a front he put on. There are two kinds of anger in people. The first, most common one, is the casual anger. Your reaction to a stressor is immediate. Someone cuts you off, you shout, get it out of your system. The second kind is the explosive anger. Someone cuts you off, you remain calm on the outside, bottle it inside. But when multiple stressors happen in short succession, you blow the hell up and escalate it. Sounds like the guy was the second type, and old ladies driving slowly were too much to handle for him. The good old anger spiral. Something makes you angry. Little things that just kind of pile up throughout the day make you more angry. Your general grumpiness makes people mad at you, and that stuff won't stop until you eventually just go to bed. I agree, he must have landed this interview well. Was there no other indications from any previous jobs? Were any of the other jobs customer-facing? Maybe he just did office work up to this point and didn't have to deal with driving very much. Story 4. Happened recently. Driving job. I don't really have to worry about the person recognizing this. He sucked so bad with computers that I nearly ended up with a manslaughter charge during onboarding. Okay, I get this person through onboarding. My boss in HR get him through orientation. We set him out to train. Trainer comes in, exasperated. Dude can't drive. The easy part of the job. He can't secure cargo. The more challenging but still easy part of the job. He starts crying while driving. He ignores instruction. This goes on for a week. Trainer says he's not going to pass the guy. I tell my boss his options are to either have him retrain under another trainer, do a ride-along, draw his own conclusions, or term the guy. Eventually, my boss does the ride-along. The guy nearly causes a wreck while doing exactly what he was told not to do with me in front of him not 3 minutes ago. During his ride-along, he runs 2 stop signs and nearly has a head-on collision. Boss wanted to give him another week as long as he didn't mess up his paperwork. This is my domain, and I've been known to make people reconstruct their entire day from scratch if they mess it up bad enough. He proceeds to back out of the lot with both hands off the wheel. Yeah, that's it. Boss wanted to give him another week? What the hell is wrong with your boss? Sunk costs are a horrible thing. Story 5. Had a new hire, as in less than a week on the job at a movie theater where I worked as a supervisor, threw a very loud, unbelievably childish tantrum in front of a lobby full of customers because her direct supervisor asked her to sweep up some popcorn that a customer spilled. She kept screaming, "I ain't cleaning up someone else's mess. Make them, the customer, do it." She was 24 years old. The meltdown she had when she got fired for her tantrum was nuclear, with lots of screaming and threats of how her parents were going to call the company and get all your butts fired. The next day, someone claiming to be her dad did call and tell us that we are going to rehire my daughter and apologize to her and fire, named her supervisor and manager, or else. But nothing more came of it. The top manager just laughed and hung up. I've yet to ever see such an epic entitled tantrum before or since. You just reminded me of a guy that I briefly worked with last year, if only for the fact that when he quit, he was threatening to sue. Had a lawyer call the next day, but my boss completely blew it off because he knew it was the guy's girlfriend, and then never heard from him again. Story 6. She left an unbelievable and unflushable gigantic turd both in and out of the toilet. I went into the bathroom to deal with what was surely an exaggeration and probably a nasty diarrhea mess, but no. There was a single, unbroken, enormous log that was hanging down over the outside of the toilet seat, going up over the seat and back down through the hole into the drain as far as the eye could see, all in one piece. Flushing had no effect. None. It didn't budge. It didn't wiggle. Nothing. Gravity didn't even pull it apart when it hung over the side of the bowl halfway to the ground. It was unbelievable. No one knew what to do. No one wanted to clean it up. Someone wondered aloud if we should send her to the hospital. Honestly, I can't remember what happened next, only that there were tools involved, but I can still see that monster turd like it was yesterday. It was in 1997. I could never look her in the face again. I just kept wondering, how? Maddie, wherever you are, I hope you're doing better. Should have had a poop knife. I love when this reference organically pops up. Hate it when it pops up. Means the poop is buoyant and might need the poop glove. Did I tell this story well enough that you're picturing this in your mind? Good, because I'm not getting this image out of my head yet, and if I have to suffer, you do too. What happened to this person after? Were they sent to the doctor? Were they written up? Did she have a history of leaving enormous stuff behind in the bathroom? Story 7. When I worked at Sam's Club, one of the cashiers pocketed a few grand from his drawer and put it on Facebook. We were a new club, so if that much money went missing, it would have taken them a while to figure out. Or so I was told. One of the managers overheard, and they put 2 and 2 together. He got arrested and was fired. I know several people who have gotten fired for stealing because their drawers were short by hundreds of dollars after every shift. Like, don't steal, but if you're going to, just slip a 10 or a 20 every once in a while. Don't be so absolutely obvious. We had one guy pumping gas. When he was alone on his shift, he'd set the price of the gas down to pennies, fill up his tank and all his friends, pay the amount shown, and set the price back where it belonged. Books always balanced. One day, he forgot to put the price back. He went to jail. I've never seen my dad, the owner, so mad as when he hopped out of the car and caught the guy red-handed. Hey, until he forgot to set it back, that was a pretty smart scam. For real. I'm actually kind of mad. I want penny gas. Story 8. I wasn't the employer, but my coworker at a sandwich shop when I was 17 would steal hours by coming back to the store to clock himself out a couple of hours after he left. We made minimum wage and he was canned after the 4th time he did it. He stole at most $40 with that brilliant strategy. One of my coworkers did this at Walmart a little over 10 years ago, except she did it for around 6 months before quitting of her own accord and never got caught. Sometimes she'd go in to clock in and immediately leave, then come back at the end of her shift to clock out. She'd forget to clock out if she didn't want to come back to bother clocking out herself. Her job was cleaning bathrooms, floors, etc. They even made her safety team leader. She showed up to hold the meetings. I'm guessing they thought that she was always very busy if they never saw her. Can't get fired if they can't find you. In the white-collar world, you show up, turn on your office lights, hang a jacket on your chair, and split. Everyone just assumes you're in a meeting. Story 9. That the guy was stalking a female employee. It was a 24-hour retailer and she was a morning shift and he was night shift. so I just thought there was no way they knew each other. Then one day, I was filling in for a different manager, and he came into the break room and was taking pictures of the morning shift schedule. I asked him why, and he told me some story about another employee just wanted him to send their schedule, etc. I came in on my day off later that week during day shift and caught him staring at her from a different aisle while she was stalking. She had no idea. He would follow her home and watch her house and all that. She was 17. He was 38. I called the cops and had him escorted off the property and helped her get in touch with the right resources for a restraining order. He ended up violating the order multiple times and is in jail, last I heard. Creepy. This guy probably thinks all those things men do in romantic rom-coms to win girls over actually work. If you do even half the stuff you see in rom-coms, you're a creep and deserve to get arrested. Playing music outside someone's window? Chasing them through the airport?
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 10. I knew a guy who worked at Subway back when they gave out stamps. Basically, for every 6 inches of sub you bought, you earned a stamp. And once you filled a card with 8 stamps, you could get a free 6-inch sub. So this guy started only giving stamps to customers who asked for them. If they didn't ask, he pocketed the stamps and grew a sizable stack of complete stamp cards. Then, over time, he started cashing them in. When a customer paid with cash, he would ring it in as a freebie, place his own completed stamp card in the till, and pocket the cash. Customer got their sub, Subway's till was balanced, and he had an extra $5 to $10 in his pocket. Everybody was happy. He worked there for a few years, and word was he racked up a few $1,000s running this scheme. No idea if anybody complained or if he was ever caught, but he did buy a motorbike. Illegal life pro tips. Story 11. Night shift at a packing line. We had 2 new temps that were polar opposites. One super bubbly religious guy who was pretty emotional, cried during his favorite songs. The other guy was grunge, pretty cynical, but a damn good worker. Well, they both ended up working on adjacent lines and I was training them. Things were great till the bubbly guy decided it was his mission to befriend the grunge guy. Grunge dude wanted to be left alone so he could work, but bubbly guy kept going to our team lead to tell her he couldn't understand why grunge wouldn't be his friend. My team lead comes down and tells them to play nice and be friends. She was despised by most of our crew. She's oblivious. I told her that Bubbles needs to leave grunge alone, but she wouldn't have it. Grunge walked out, and Bubbles cried for 2 nights straight, then never came back. I like to think that Bubbles was desperately in love with grunge. Closeted extremely religious guy? That never happens. Story 12. Mechanic here. I had a coworker whom would poke a hole into customers' tires just so they would come back and buy more. Yes, he did it to new tires as well. Finally caught him one day after I found it odd that it was only the customers he put tires on that kept coming back for more tires. At first, I thought maybe he wasn't putting enough air into them, so I kind of hawk-eyed over him without him knowing, and sure enough, he would put the tire on the rim. We have a special machine to put tires on rims, and he would put a small slit with his pocket knife in the tread on the tire. Caught him red-handed doing it, took him to my office and told him this exactly. I would have never thought that poking holes in brand new tires would help keep it from going flat. Guess I'll never know because I don't work for unemployment. Fired on the spot. Curse you, Brett. What was in it for this coworker? Do they make commission on the tires they sell? Was he just psychotic? If you think about it, that's a really dangerous practice. Who knows when that tire's gonna go flat? Could be out in the middle of nowhere. Could be in the middle of a busy highway. Story 13. Working in a bank. Had a teller, about 19 years old, get ticked about the way a customer, retail store owner, would send in her deposits at the drive-up window. The teller complained about the customer on Facebook, tagged the lady personally, as well as the store. Customer called the bank and told me, furious of course. I told the customer we would investigate. I asked the teller. She straight up admitted it and says, "What's the customer or branch manager going to do about it? My grandfather is friends with the bank president." I called HR and bank president on conference. Girl lost her job in under 15 minutes of me receiving the call from the customer. Breach of customer confidentiality in banking is a major law violation. I'd just like to say, in my capacity as an official employee of that bank, curse at person. Like, how absolutely deranged do you have to be not to see how absolutely stupid that is? Not deranged, entitled. Story 14. This definitely won't be as scary as all the other stories, and is definitely not even closest to the craziest person I've had to go to HR about or was called in to report on, but it really stuck with me. This guy was bullying another one really, really badly. Like American high school movie in the 80s badly. Reason? He was from out of town. That was it. I thought there had to be more to the drama. Went to the place, interviewed a few people, watched it happen myself, and damn, yeah, it seemed like this guy could not take the fact that this kid, 20s, was from another state. I was absolutely expecting the sort of drama that building was more famous for. Baby daddies, sleeping with someone's wife, etc. Nope. This town ain't big enough for the two of us, but unironically. We're not in Kansas anymore. We're in Ohio. Always have been. Story 15. New hire. Kinda weird, definitely suffering from a lack of social skills. Fast forward a few days, and a customer comes back to return a piece of merchandise, claiming when they got home, there was blood on it. We looked. Yeah, that was blood. We looked up the transaction. Only about 45 minutes earlier, new hire had set it up. Went to find him, but he wasn't in his department. Not necessarily a big deal. We had to go back into the warehouse for stuff all the time. Went to find him. There he was, in the warehouse, cutting his wrists with a razor blade, bleeding all over the place. Hell, hope he's okay. No idea what happened to him, other than he never came back. He didn't leave through the front doors, which was the only way out that I could see from my spot on the floor. So, wait, you didn't see him leave? This sounds like he probably expired in the store, and now he's a ghost haunting the place. Now you're never gonna get rid of him. Hey, at least you don't have to pay him. Make sure he can hold a broom and he can clean up at night when everyone's gone. Save you a ton on cleaning. Story 16. I had a guy call in sick so he could go to the same company's Christmas party. This one is so head-scratchers dumb. What was he thinking? It's on the company, though. Why would you have a company event, announce it company-wide, and then schedule at a time when not everyone could go? I would probably have done the same thing just to say curse you too, the company. Something like a large supermarket that has 24/7 shifts. They have a party for the majority, but the night shift staff still has to work and have their own thing later. My work usually brings in staff from other stores, plus people who don't want to attend can work. I've worked somewhere that would do this for meetings, but never for parties or events. We just had to work through those. Story 17. I was the head night auditor at an upscale airport property. Had a youngish night auditor who put a room into out-of-order status and let his friends in to party and have multi-partner spicy time that he joined during his lunch break. He got caught because of a noise complaint. Police called, he was fired and blacklisted from being hired back. I hope he had a 1-hour lunch break. If he joined the multi-partner spicy time for 15 minutes, that's kinda disappointing for everyone. Only 15 minutes for lunch should be criminal. I thought the minimum was 30 minutes. I'm not claiming that to be fact, but if anyone knows, please inform me. Story 18. Our worker took a dump in the toilet of a vacant apartment that didn't have running water and then didn't say anything and left. They know they're supposed to use bathrooms in the offices or clubhouses because vacant units never have running water. The complex didn't find it until 3 days later when they brought a potential tenant for a walkthrough. It had been over 100 degrees all week. The woman I spoke to said there wasn't any toilet paper either. That last sentence makes it so much worse. Story 19. Had a coworker who always had a really strong stench and thought it was just bad BO. Turns out, she was addicted to mothballs and was licking them during working hours. The chemicals give off an unbelievably bad smell through the skin. We got complaints about her odor, but didn't take them seriously. Thought people were just being jerkwads, until someone saw her actively licking on the job. I had to Google this. Apparently, getting high on mothballs is really a thing. Wow, today I learned. Story 20. When my wife was in college, she worked as a teller at the bank. Tellers were responsible for checking out and checking in a certain amount of cash on every shift. One of her coworkers doing the evening shift decided to take the money to the casino with the idea that he would replace it in the morning. Unluckily for him, there was an adult in the bank the next morning before he came in, and he was fired on the spot. Story 21. I had a number of complaints about a new member of staff. They said that she kept taking off her shoes, pulling dry skin from her feet, and eating it. I thought the staff were lying and being mean about her just because they didn't like her, until I saw her do it. She didn't finish the week. Dude, what the hell? I mean, wow, that stuff gets done in the privacy of your home, like mining for gold and eating the proceeds. Story 22. Once had a coworker selling shrimp from the dumpster. Picked them out after brunches, popped a few on a skewer, and sold them in the bars that night. Got caught in a bar with the manager, and the CCTV caught him dumpster diving. They had him arrested. Good lordy, that's disgusting. Obviously, you've never had dumpster shrimp before. This is like something Frank Reynolds would do. May I offer you a nice dumpster shrimp during this trying time? Story 23. She was peeing on the chairs in the office. No, she didn't have any sort of health issues. She just didn't feel like walking to the bathroom. As far as I know, she still works there. This wouldn't happen to be at a major oil change place headquarters, would it? If so, there's a lot of ladies peeing themselves in office chairs. There's a company where this is a regular thing among multiple people? Excuse me? Story 24. On his second day at KFC, he tried to walk out with 2 buckets of chicken and ran right into our boss. Unrelated to the thread, but this reminds me of one time I went to KFC and this dude walked in drunk and literally ran around stealing chicken from everyone's buckets. It was chaos with all the families there trying to protect their chicken, but it was kind of funny too. Story 25. The cemetery director was selling plots, pocketing the money, $750, and selling the same plot to another family. The second family would show up ready to bury their deceased, only to find the grave already being used. He got away with it for a year. Story 26. Local hardware store had an employee jacking and putting it in a coworker's coffee. True story. People found out, and he was arrested. Frappuccino. Americano. Story 27. That an employee took a woman's phone number from her account at the store we worked at and called her. I never thought anyone was that stupid.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.